Specifically speaking about the dark net sites, C&T doesn't involve ourselves too much with that. That's more so done by your federal agencies who really work at uncovering to find out who's operating, et cetera, into those. Where we focus more of our attention to is more of the more commonly known sites such as Facebook, Craigslist, Backpage, et cetera. These are sites that are used by most people for legitimate purposes, posting pictures of friends and family and or trying to sell items. However, you do have some people who use these sites to advertise their drug sales or criminal activity. We'll have people in there that go on Facebook and post the fact they have certain types of drugs for sale, and or we have people who go on Craigslist and Facebook who put on advertisements that they have drugs for sales. In fact, we've had cases in the past where people of the community have called into C&T saying, hey, I was on Craigslist today, and lo and behold, I saw this advertisement that I suspect it means they're selling drugs. We look at it, and in some of those cases, we've actually contacted the person who made the post and meant them to purchase drugs and then arrested them that day or some time that follows. So like any other business, they're going to try to be as creative as possible to try to move their product. But again, these are people who are using otherwise legitimate sites for illegal purposes.
Right, but to the dark web, you can pull stuff in from anywhere in the world, bring in heroin, meth, but then that does present a problem. Once it gets here, then it's in circulation within the county, right? Is it not? And then that does become something that you guys are having to deal with.
Absolutely. Probably one of the biggest problems we have in terms of the dark web is that we'll have people who go into these sites and get some form of synthetic drug. We've had cases where people have gone on the websites and got a form of synthetic drug from China and Japan and then had up to a kilo of it shipped here locally to Chatham County. And then they then try to sell that as some type of bath salt or Molly or MDMA, and that's obviously very illegal. Of course, these places where they're getting them from is outside the U.S. They don't care about the U.S. Drug enforcement regulations, and they'll send it to whoever orders it. And so that's the biggest thing we see here locally is people who go and try to order some type of synthetic drug from a country outside of the U.S. and then once they receive that drug, try to distribute it throughout Chatham County.
And talk about, are the drugs more dangerous coming in from Japan or wherever, because they're not going to even be following the USDA?
Well, absolutely. You know, anything with any form of controlled substance is obviously is dangerous to ingest. Even stuff that's legally prescribed to your doctor could have an effect on you. So when you start talking about drugs that you're getting from a country who doesn't even abide by the U.S. drug regulations and make their chemical makeup however they want to, and then you're sending that, you're at a very high risk if you choose to use it. And what people need to understand too is that when they go and get these drugs, whether here locally or from some country outside the U.S. that they're using the internet to get, they start selling it, they can also be criminally charged should that person have an overdose or even die as a result of using that drug.
Right, and when you're ordering it online and you're the black market, things like that, the chances of it being exactly what they say it is slim to none, correct? So that presents another. So say you go buy meth or heroin or synthetic drugs, there's no way of knowing that's what you're going to be getting when it's...
Absolutely. One of the other issues we see when people get drugs from the black market is that they order what they believe to be one thing, and when it comes here and is intercepted by us and taken to a crime lab that's checked out by the GBI, it's found to be something completely different or something that's similar to the drug but not exactly what they thought they were having. And that promotes a huge danger in that when they're selling it and or using it themselves, they're using it believing it's one thing, it's something completely different. And as a result, we're seeing people have overdoses and sometimes to include death as a result of that.
Yeah. Last question. The dark web obviously presenting a challenge for the FBI, but you guys work with them as far as how that goes. The anonymity of it and the challenge that presents to law enforcement, doesn't that make it just that more difficult for you guys to do? I mean, the FBI, but you guys to do what you're trying to do?
You know, absolutely. C&T regularly partners with federal agencies here locally, in this case specifically with the FBI, who looks into these in depth. And we try to work with them to both try to identify anyone who's using these dark websites here locally to get drug products in, and then help to work with them to try to identify who they may be communicating with wherever, say for example, China, Japan, etc. And that's where the FBI really picks up and goes forward with trying to find out exactly who's on the other side of the computer, if you will, that's actually processing these orders.